Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. So today we have Jeremy Corbyn representing the Labour Party. I'm pretty sure everyone knows who he is at this point from the United Kingdom. Running, I'm giving him the Democratic Party because obviously he's a little bit more on the left than Theresa May. And Theresa May representing the Conservative Party, obviously that correlates directly with the Republican Party, but their ideals aren't exactly the same. Theresa May definitely outlines someone who's more of, as one of my subscribers best put it, a Hillary Clinton from 2008. Conservative economic policies, not as so lenient on social policies as she was in 2016, but definitely leaning in the right direction in some aspects. I mean, she's definitely leaning towards left voters, which will definitely help her in this election prediction, which is something you'll see across the map. And she's sort of outlining a different generation of Democrats, not necessarily conservative Democrats, but more of a moderate, I can see your point of view things. Jeremy Corbyn, on the other hand, I think that he's somewhat like Bernie Sanders. I think that his party, the Labour Party, is more progressive than, obviously it's more progressive than the Conservative Party, but I still think that it's more representative of the Green Party in the United States. I mean, if you look at it, look at their policies, the Conservative Party isn't so conservative when it gets down to it, and it isn't like the Republican Party, and religion doesn't play a main factor in a lot of their political arguments, and morality does not either. Whereas on the Corbyn Labor side, it's more of a let's expand government. We're not for mainly small government. You know, that one's a little debatable, but the Labour Party pretty much outlines what we see in the Green Party, other than just not as extreme. So it's really hard to gauge where this would be. At first, I would assume this would be somewhat like a Democratic primary map, but since we're factoring in Republican voters, states like Idaho aren't going to go for Corbyn, and states like California aren't going to go for May. So we're just going to do the map based off how I think it would turn out under the respective titles of Democrat and Republican for these UK candidates. So on the Western... Oh, that's a mistake of mine. I'm sorry, I didn't turn off the map. Let me just fix that real quick. But I didn't really see the West Coast going to Theresa May. She is a... if she was Hillary Clinton, she still has that Republican title. It's not going to help her, and I don't see a possibility of her gaining their electoral votes. It could get closer, obviously, but states like Washington and Oregon, pretty progressive. I think this will stay solidly with Jeremy Corbyn, but states like California, it could get down a little bit close, but maybe not 5% close, but maybe 15 to 10%. Over in Hawaii, again, a very progressive state. Down in Alaska, Theresa May, I think, would do pretty well in Alaska. I think she would carry every single state, almost every single state that Mitt Romney carried. Actually, I think she might carry every single state Mitt Romney carried, but we're going to talk about a few. Indiana included. I mean, we're pretty much seeing an outline of a generalized electoral map. Now, that may not be something you expected, but think about how partisan American voters are compared to in the United Kingdom. Obviously, this is not the same type. The candidates wouldn't be the same, but if we're taking them directly from the UK and putting them in the position of the United States politicians, the electoral map would pretty much look similar to what we've seen in past elections because American voters are very partisan. They stick with their party, and they're not willing to flip because someone like Jeremy Corbyn is a little too left, or someone like Theresa May is a little bit to a little bit too left. I mean, UK candidates in general are definitely more liberal than you might expect if you converted them over to American politics. Theresa May would definitely fit in with parts of the Democratic Party. I mean, parts like, although I didn't call her personally a conservative Dem, I still think that she would fit in with people like Heidi Heitkamp, Joe Manchin. I just think that she would do pretty well with them, if not someone like Suzanne Collins on the Republican side. But then again, I don't see May, other than economically and government-wise, I don't see her as someone who's a Republican. So 162 electoral votes for Jeremy Corbyn, 182 for him, and 175 for Theresa May. Now, this electoral map definitely could come down to a number of key states. Theresa May would do phenomenal in a number of these states. I think she would do pretty well in the Rust Belt. I think her appeal to the white working class would be better than Jeremy Corbyn's. Now, that's pretty much based off her entire government, smaller government. I mean, her economic issues. I think that would definitely resonate with that type of voters. That type of voting base, my bad. But I feel like Jeremy Corbyn could also do something with that progressive tone of his. And I think that'll definitely help him in some other states like New Hampshire, states like Maine, states like Colorado. But we're going to get there when we get there. So across the Rust Belt, I think the Rust Belt would actually go to Theresa May. Now, some of you may disagree with that, but I don't see a way for Jeremy Corbyn to really win across the Rust Belt with someone like Theresa May who could grasp those voters and bring them over, especially bringing Republican and part of the Democratic base over to her side. I see that easily going to her. I also think she would carry Ohio and Iowa. I think these are states that would vote with her just based off their pure identity. I mean, they're mainly a part of the Rust Belt, disregarding Iowa and the Rust Belt itself and the state of Iowa included, these states all have voted for candidates who definitely resonate with their economic message. It's pretty much meant economics, and considering that they're almost equal, Corbyn may be a little bit more radical according to social beliefs. I still think that May would do better, and especially since the economy is a major factor in almost every single Rust Belt state, I still see that. I think that Theresa May would do very well there. I also think she would carry the state of Minnesota. Now, that state hasn't flipped since 1972. So state of Minnesota, I still see I actually see flipping back to the GOP for the first time in not generations, but decades, maybe one generation. But 255 electoral votes for Theresa May, 182 for Jeremy Corbyn. We're going up to the Northeast now. I think Jeremy Corbyn would pretty much win the entire Northeast. I think his progressive appeal will definitely help him. Now, some of you may say he's not a full-on progressive. You're right, he's not. But then again, if we're comparing him to the United States politics, he'll be labeled as a progressive. I think he would wear that title very proudly, and I think it'll be, enough for him to win up in the Northeast, especially someone like Bernie Sanders could do it. Corbyn could do the exact same thing. So 190 electoral votes for Jeremy Corbyn, 255 for Theresa May. Down in Virginia, that state, that one would be a pure toss-up. But as of right now, I think May would actually win this election, and I'm going to do that by giving her the state of Georgia. I think the state of Georgia would land in her column. I think she would do very well in the state of Georgia, just based off the fact that the state has its conservative identity. It's been the same way for year after year, and I think May is someone who can really appeal to those moderate-type Republican voters that liked Mitt Romney, like John McCain, but didn't like Donald Trump and his radical beliefs. And they're probably not going to vote for someone who's more liberal, but they'll probably take someone who's still conservative, running under the Republican Party, but still agrees with them on some social issues, such as legalization of gay marriage. So I think that Georgia would go to Theresa May. But going over to Colorado and New Mexico, these are Democratic states. I really see the progressive base coming out and voting for Jeremy Corbyn. But as for the state of Nevada, I think Theresa May would do pretty well in the state of Nevada, enough to give her the victory there. Over in Virginia, I think Virginia would still stay blue. I mean, it's still a Democratic state at heart. Everything that we've seen shows no reason to give it to the GOP. And Corbyn's not that bad of a candidate. I just think that May would narrowly edge him out in key states like Michigan or Minnesota, which may agree more with Corbyn. But I think May can bring over some Democratic voters that voted for Donald Trump and did the same exact thing he did, just without the radical message, which is why I think that she would do a little bit better and carry the state of Minnesota along with her. So 277 electoral votes for Theresa May, 217 for Jeremy Corbyn. We go down to the state of Florida. I still think that the progressive policy and the more liberal approach might actually help. I mean, when we're looking about stance on gun control, but stance on government, Florida's should become a Democratic state based off of their recent events. I mean, immigration, the hurricanes, school shootings. These are three top issues that are all going to be affecting Florida voters, and I think that if it came down to it, they would go for Jeremy Corbyn. Now, the final call I'm going to make, North Carolina, you pretty much saw that one coming for Theresa May. State of North Carolina pretty much would go to her because I think that she would do well with a conservative base. I mean, again, she is still a conservative small government, which is what North Carolina voters really look for. I mean, looking in the Rust Belt, it was the economic message. But down in North Carolina, Georgia, and Florida, it was all about Donald Trump's rhetoric and the entire message that he gave them. I mean, him giving them a sense of pride, a sense of, hey, Republicans, you need to come out and vote. I think May could do pretty well and corral a couple of Democratic voters in her column. But I don't think that would extend to Virginia voters or Colorado or New Mexico voters. Now, the one that that could go either way, the ones that I truly think could go either way are states like New Hampshire, Nevada, and Florida. These all went for different candidates, so all of these could go either way, so don't get too angry about those. But the rest I'm pretty solid on. Minnesota, maybe you could include with that batch that could go either way, but other than that, I mean, the map's pretty much solidified just because of how partisan American voters are and recent events that have happened in certain states that may affect them, but not the rest of the nation as a whole. So, final electoral map, Jeremy Corbyn loses the election, 246 electoral votes to Theresa May's 292. Thank you guys for watching this video. Comment down suggestions below, and I'll see you all tomorrow.